たに重要な役目を与えます。しばらくこの村に住みなさい。せめて我々ドラゴン族に向かわないように努めるのです。良いですね。結果をもたらす。そんな予感がするのです。
So this episode of Farming Life felt incredibly short. Like, it felt incredibly short. It went by so quick. We pick up right off where we got left off on last week with the Beast Girls joining the village from the Howling Wolf village. We find out that our girl Senna is very well endowed. So she definitely has what's that one joke? Mother-bearing hips. You definitely love it quite a bit. One of the things that I felt extremely funny, and I was having a good time watching this episode, was I love how everybody, because of the might that the might of the village that Machio is handling, that he is leading the charge of now. I like how everybody keeps sending their best women and daughters to his village at this point. So now we have two things that occurred this episode that are big things. We got to meet 𝐒𝐻𝐽𝐻𝐽's wife and his daughter, which is 𝐿asty Moon, which is the daughter, 𝐿asty, and then I think her name's 𝐿graphie Moon, or 𝐿graphie Moon, which is the wife, which Machio almost annihilated. The only reason that he didn't annihilate her was because 𝐒𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥, our local spider, is friends with 𝐒𝐻𝐽𝐻𝐽's, or has familiarity with 𝐒𝐻𝐽𝐻's wife, and 𝐒𝐒𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥 pulled her out of the way so she wouldn't get hit by Machio's attack. So I thought that was absolutely just hilarious that Machio almost just took out 𝐒𝐻𝐽𝐻's wife. He almost ended her. And because of his immediate show of might, which 𝐒𝐻𝐽𝐻's wife was beyond baffled at the fact that somebody exists that could easily overpower them, because they're supposed to be like the most powerful beings on the planet, maybe outside the Demon Lord, which we haven't met him or her yet. But I would assume that because 𝐒𝐒𝐚𝐧𝐽𝐻, or a similar equivalent spider, has given a Demon Lord before a run for their money, I'm assuming that 𝐒𝐻𝐽𝐻 and his wife and these wyverns are more powerful than the Demon Lord. They just decide maybe to work with them as opposed to oppose them, kind of thing. So I just found that incredibly funny. So 𝐿graphie Moon, because of all these findings, she decides to leave her daughter there, which is 𝐿asty Moon, and 𝐿asty gets kind of mixed into the village, and Machio, on the request of 𝐒𝐻𝐽𝐻, immediately, his request was put her to work, so he tries to find all types of different jobs. She's just too powerful. Like, she sneezed and she blew a whole crop of fruit away. So he puts her because of he was told by, who was he told by? Was it Lucy or no, or Tia? He was told by one of them that, hey, dragons contain like the most wisdom. So he puts her in charge of diplomatic relations, and her first diplomatic job, hilarious, was dealing with 𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐿, I think his name's 𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐿 or whatever, the commander or general or whatever of the demon army. And he came over to request more oranges. They didn't have oranges. So she gaslights this dude into taking pears and strawberries and apples and all, simply because he was afraid for his life in dealing with her. He just said, yeah, I'll take it. Yep, I'll take those two. I'll take those two. Ended up leaving with like a whole farm worth of stuff. Just simply because he was afraid. So, in Machio's eyes, 𝐿asty, perfect negotiator. So I thought that was her whole entire, inception and introduction was hilarious. I really like her quite a bit. And I find it now interesting that we have one more race right after we got another race. So we had the Beast Girls, the Wolf Girls last week, and then now we have a Dragon Girl here. So his repertoire of choices has multiplied. Then the other thing that occurred this episode was we have dwarves. So dwarves came to the village to visit, and they came seeking materials to be able to make more alcohol. They're drunks. As typically dwarves are considered drunks. Well, they ended up being brewers, so Machio was like, you're welcome to the village. welcome here, that make me some vodka. So they do, which hilarious. We find out that the dwarves have a specific romantic interest because Machio's excited, like, oh, I have these 4 men here. They're older guys. They're old dudes. They're old dudes, so they just drink now. But he was like, regardless, I have these 4 dudes and I have this army of women. He's like, who fancies your interest? I was dying because this Donovan guy, the dwarf, was like, oh, my women need to grow beards. None of these are all smooth ladies. They're not for me. So I was like, even like, what do you do with that information? You're like, yo, Lucy, give me a potion that can make these ladies grow a beard. You know what I mean? Like, what do you do with that information? So I thought that was hilarious. But welcome to the village, these old dudes here. And then the last thing the episode ended on, which I thought was also very funny in its own, funny in a non like ha 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 funny way, but funny as in like that's comical kind of thing, was the introduction of 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐿's daughter, apparently one of the strongest people in the demons, the demons army or the demons, repertoire of folks. And her name, did I write down her name? I don't think I wrote down her name. But she's 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐿's daughter. And yeah, I didn't write down her name. I just wrote down that he's sending her daughter. But regardless, she ends up coming to the village to also investigate. She ends up staying there a while. But she immediately thought herself big girl on campus kind of thing. And she's immediately humbled as she meets dragons, angels, vampires, dwarves, all of it, you name it. And she was like, yeah, all of these people can end our army. And then she meets the elves, and we learned something very, very interesting about all the high elves, or the elves that live there. Apparently they're known as, the reason that men don't exist is they are known as man-eaters. And she defined them as they prey on helpless young men and kidnap them. So it reminds me of a lot of other anime where we see like ogre ladies take on a man, or they find a man and they like take him back to their cave and he just gets annihilated. And you know what I'm trying to fish for, but this man just like, he gets all his mana gets sucked out is what I'm trying to say. And it sounds like that's how his days end. So it seems that these elves are predatory creatures. So I thought that was interesting too, because I've always asked, like, where are all the elf men? How do they all just die out? Well, it seems, and I'm putting 2 and 2 together, it seems that when elves probably do produce children, they probably typically produce females. And there's probably a large gap in ratio of female to males that come out when they do happen to have children. And because of that, the male children probably are allowed to grow up and at some point get also ravaged, essentially. So I just thought that was an eye-opening moment. Very last thing is Machio. This episode he ended up killing off a bear and a viper, and he ended up eating both of them, which is another really cool show of strength for our boy Machio. But overall, I really enjoyed this episode, from the negotiations to the dragons to Senna. I really like her quite a bit. To the dwarves coming in, to learning more about some of the different people that inhabit the village that we didn't know, with outside people coming to tell us, Dragon Girl, 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐿's daughter, all these things were made up a really great, very, very fast episode, but really enjoyed it. I think this was one of my favorite episodes. Just like I ate it up and it felt really quick. So let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. My friends, I'll see you guys next week. Peace.